Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe. They said it was a bad idea, Laurie. Respectfully, I don't think that's a good thumbnail, Pete told me, but I'm going to see No Time to Die tonight, and I'm excited about the new James Bond film. So that is why we have the best thumbnail we've ever created for this podcast. I'd like everybody to go over to Pete's Twitter page, Twitter profile, account, whatever it's called, and say to Pete, hot damn, that is a fantastic thumbnail for today's WrestleTalk podcast. Respect.
Hot diggity dog.
Put respectfully. Respect. This is what he said to me. I'm going to get the little, what did he say? When I described my concept.
It was the James Bond thing with all the Queen's Crown people in it.
Yeah.
Respectfully, Ollie, I don't think that's very good. I don't think that will work.
Yeah. I respectfully, Ollie, I don't think that idea is very good. And then I just left the caps lock on for everything I was saying back to him. Can we get a vote? Is this the best thumbnail we've ever had ever? Jenna, can you make that simple yes or yes options or no? This is sponsored by Geologie this episode. Geologie are a men's skincare routine company. They send it. This is my one. This is actually my thing. That's why it's got stains on.
It's got a little grease patch. That's gross.
It's the usage of all the products. This one I use every day. Well, both of them. But look, one's coloured for mornings. The other one's coloured for daytime routines. And it kept me beautifully moist and soft on holiday with a bit of SPF 10. So yes, please do go over. There's a link in the video description below to check them out. Every click helps support us. If you take it out on our recommendation, that helps us out even more. We'll talk a bit more about it in the break. But first, what did you think of the women's booking on this episode, Laurie? Specifically, Queen's Crown Tournament.
Sorry, women appeared on the show, Ollie, did they? I must have blinked and I missed it.
You mean mid-card women, to be fair. Because the main event women were all over it.
Oh yeah. No, they had plenty of time. But yeah, the Queen's Crown tournament, it's off to an interesting start. It's off to a I don't know, Ollie, do you get the sense that this might be a PR stunt? With them doing a big women's tournament, and by big I mean in terms of the way they're phrasing it, not in terms of the amount of time that they're giving it. Doing a big women's tournament to lead into the final being held at Crown Jewel. I don't know. Something about the way that it's been happening. Gives me this sense that it might be more than sort of just like a PR thing, more than it is a genuine bit of content that we should be watching and enjoying with our eyes and our interest in wrestling.
I am going to say something that's a bit of a meme, but I think I sincerely mean it. Watch it play out. Just let this one play out. Okay, so here's what we've been describing. We've had the first rounds for both the men's and women's tournaments that are running at the moment. The men's matches in duration so far are 7 minutes 58, 11 minutes 25, 10 minutes 55, 8 minutes 55. And the women's matches are 2 minutes 10, 1 minute 40, 1 minute 24, 3 minutes 2 seconds. There's a gap there. That is way more than the sort of glass ceiling gender pay gap as well. This is huge. This is massive.
Just what's the point in doing this bloody tournament if you don't want to do it? I think the point of TV shows shouldn't be you're doing stuff that you don't want to feature at all. Like a lot of TV shows try and cram in extra storylines that kind of are loose threads and they get dropped, or they don't get enough time dedicated to them. But WWE makes a song and a dance about everything it does, and then just goes, "Oh yeah, we don't care about that. You have no reason to care about this. They spent the thing in the news yesterday was that, they spent Roman Reigns had a longer entrance than the Queen's Crown had dedicated to it on SmackDown. We've spent more time talking about Queen's Crown than WWE has spent featuring it in their shows, which, we barely talked about it in Friday's podcast. That's about it. And it just, what is the point in these unexciting, like a minute to a roll-up finish or whatever it is, isn't enough time to buy anyone's interest in this thing. So, like, what is the point of it if you're just going to, like, you're trying to make out that it's going to be some sort of like, oh, this is about, the women's wrestling is just as important as the men's. Look, they've got this amazing tournament. And actually, it's just to be like, okay, cool. They're going to, like, I bet they make a huge fuss about it for Crown Jewel. Like, they're going to make a massive, massive fuss of it on that show as if it's actually important and mattered. And it hasn't at all yet, because there's not been a match. A minute is not a match. A minute is 2 holds and Dana Brooke trying an unsuccessful roll up 6 times to get kneed in the face, which is not a finisher.
Yeah, it's like they're not doing either of the things that will work. I think because the 2 matches we had on this episode were Shayna Baszler versus Dana Brooke. Of course, Baszler won, but she's the Queen of Spades. Surely she's got to win the Queen's Crown tournament for me. But if you want Shayna to just squash people, which I feel is what her monster character has been built as, then you need the other matches to go a little bit longer to make that squash actually a thing. So they failed on that count. And the other match was Doudrop beating Natalya. The commentary team just kept on putting over, wow, Doudrop's really talented, this, and this. But she actually got no offense in and won with a lucky roll-up on Natalya. So, yeah, the stories are not working at all. And, yeah, they should have a lot more time. However, I think that the reason it's not getting me is because I have had a week of holiday. So I'm just happy to be here. Secondly, I never expected anything more from WWE. They do treat any mid-card wrestlers, regardless of gender, largely completely as an afterthought. We had so many matches on this episode that went shorter than the women's matches. Granted, where it's problematic is that the men's tournament did get a lot more time, like the opening Xavier Woods versus Ricochet match went 11 minutes. That's longer than all the women's matches combined. But yeah, I see this as a second round thing, or hopefully in the semis they'll get more time.
I was gonna swear. Bull crap, that is. That is absolute bull crap, because they're not going to. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I think the fact that they can't even be bothered to finish matches with finishing moves just screams to me that this entire thing is irrelevant. Like, why couldn't Shayna Baszler have just hit the Kirifuda clutch? Why not? What difference does it make? What difference does it make if she just stomps the arm and the thing gets called off? Why does it have to be a thing she's never pinned anyone with? Just to be like, okay, well, that's done now. That's finished. Like, no, there is no thought has gone into this match because we've not even looked up what the finishes are. Like, so go out there near in the face. Who bloody cares? I don't. What a waste of time. What a waste of everyone's. And then to squeeze in the Doudrop match as well before the main event, to be like, oh yeah, we could fit one more match and just cram that in. Let's see how long that lasts. And then that was literally Doudrop did nothing, blocks a sharpshooter, then rolls up, and it's just.
Doudrop and Shayna Baszler have now had a feud that will have lasted 2 whole weeks before they have their semi-final clash next week.
But this feud, Ollie, also just involved them it involved them looking at each other. Nothing beyond that has happened.
It's intense. Yeah.
Oh man. It's like they analyze what would be a story but can't be bothered to tell it. Like, they're like that's how I write stories. Like, I think about the ending and then I go, some stuff happens, and then you write the ending because that's the bit you wanted to write. Like, I'm bothered with the setup because it's boring writing stuff. But WWE's like professional. They're meant to be professional wrestling storytellers, and this is how they do all of their stuff. It's like, and I felt like a lot of this show, they'd analyzed what would be good. Like, in they knew that the Woods Kofi thing was interesting, right? Like, they knew that Woods versus Kofi in the semifinals of King of the Ring would be an interesting story. They'd obviously zeroed in on that because they had 2 different backstage segments where they were like, what if you have to face each other in the semifinals? And then they didn't do that. It's like they know what's good and they actively choose not to do it again and again and again.
Got to get that heel heat. Got to get
Luke, can you come back, please? I don't care if you've got a baby. Come back. I don't want to watch this anymore.
Let's see what the Ultrachats say. WrestleTalk.com/support. Get your Ultrachats in there. We'll read out every single one of them over $5. Brian Moore says, so what did you guys think about the Queen's Crown Beat the Clock challenge? I mean, tournament. Also, don't tell Adam that Jinder eliminating Xavier might actually happen. Yeah, we'll get on to that. So who would have won? Shayna won the Beat the Clock challenge. She had the shortest match, I believe.
As she should. Like you said, like they've identified that Shayna Baszler should be squashing people somewhere in the last month
There's
of time.
The story.
They've done the exact same with everyone else. So like when's this going to get any time?
Are you telling me, Laurie, that a 1 minute 24 match is anywhere close to the same as a 1 minute 40 match?
No, there's a lot you could do in those 20 extra seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably like 3 more roll-ups in there.
Rocco J. Fella, with AEW and WWE, the 2 biggest wrestling brands currently, having some of the best women wrestlers for them in the world, what do you guys think is stopping women from being as important as men in their eyes? I don't understand why at all.
Well, WWE's always said that women don't draw, is really what they think backstage, and yet they quite happily think that four of the women draw. I think they just don't think that the mid-card women draw. But that's, again, if you tell people stuff is important, I think they start to believe it. And if you give them time to show that they're important, people will eventually start to come around to the idea that this stuff should be watched and should be viewed. And I think when AEW is given the women time to run, and when WWE is given women time to do a main event at a thing, they've proven that they're just as capable of hanging with the boys as anyone else. But yeah, they just don't regularly feature a variety of women in roles beyond squash matches or very quick matches. So there is no room for the audience to go, that is important. And I think the wrestling audience is savvy enough to know when stuff feels important and when it doesn't. And wrestling is all about the feeling, because we've discussed it before, like the belt isn't important unless you're telling us the belt is important. So women's matches can only be important if you say, hey, this is important, and it is made to look and feel important.
See, I push back on the idea that WWE don't book women well. I think they don't book anything well, really.
Yeah, well, because damning with faint praise.
Yeah. Because, you've got Becky Lynch, you've got Charlotte Flair, you've got Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair. That match later on that we'll talk about, I think is the polar opposite of how they're viewing the competitors in the Queen's Crown tournament. Both were equally badly booked, but I don't think you can say all WWE are not pushing their women based on this. They're not pushing their mid-card women. I think there is an important difference there. The Raven effect. How will they coexist? How will they coexist? How will they coexist? How will they coexist? It's no wonder WWE love this storyline so much. There's so much depth to it. Or at least 4 bits of depth to it, which in fairness is at least 3 more than usual. So this is about the women's tag match.
And the main event.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of coexistence going on in this episode of Raw.
The poll results are in, folks. 75%. Say this is the best thumbnail we've ever had.
Respectfully, Pete.
Respectfully,
Pete, it's the best thumbnail that's ever been done.
It's the best thumbnail that's ever been done. I'm going to see No Time to Die with him tonight, like an hour after this podcast finishes. I'm really excited. Anthony, I'll just do 2 more. Anthony Velasquez, outside of a couple good matches, this show sucks. I know, Ollie, you say you just got to turn off your brain and enjoy it, but I just can't with WWE. Nothing makes sense. And Charles Berg, Mustafa has done it now. He's gonna made a big mistake. You don't fight the dead Mansoor at a Saudi show. Does anybody else get the feeling when watching WWE that the wrestlers don't want to be there? Not all of them, but so many look drained and sad.
There's only so much acting in the world, and I think that there's only so much being used at any one time. And obviously, Sullivan, Bo Brown, is using a lot of it on a day-to-day basis. And then there's only a limited pool for the WWE talent to draw on to hide their pain.
Charles Berg's Dead Man Saw here. I think I got the cadence wrong. It's the Dead Man Saw, right? To say that he never loses in Saudi Arabia. That's the joke.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to clear that up. I thought that could have been problematic otherwise. Let's get on with our sponsorship. Oh, yes. Geologie.com. There's a link in the video description below. These beauties have made my skin nice to touch. You want to touch my skin?
I'm okay.
Everybody.
Everyone else can have a go, though, please.
Place your hand on the screen, everybody, and touch the supple softness of my giant forehead. 5-head, they called me as a kid at school, Laurie.
Did they?
My forehead was so large, because not all this hair used to be there. It had an extra finger's width on the top. No other male grooming company has been able to cover the giant size of my forehead, 5-head, apart from Geologie.
It had a very televangelist kind of feel, this whole moment where you asked everyone to lay their hands on your forehead.
Touch the head. Touch the head.
Ladies and gentlemen, lay your hands on my forehead. 5-head, forehead.
Touch the 5-head. Because we might watch Raw here, but I tell you one thing we don't want to be raw is the skin on our face. And Laurie, it's custom. So you go over to the link, you do the quiz, it takes like 30 seconds, it's free, and they'll tell you the exact regimen, or regimen, as we call it, to get bespoke little bits. I got the regimen number 30. So it's like, here's the bits I have problem with. Always get dry skin here. Not anymore. Because
what you've described as your face there.
Moisturizing SPF morning cream, little eyelid one there, and of course the nighttime one as well with Retinol. Please do go and check them out. It really helps us. Right, this full episode of Raw started off with Drew McIntyre coming out and cutting a promo, sort of ran down the Crown Jewel show, his match against Big E. Big E came out, cut a promo, nipples. Usos came out, and they set up a match for later on. A tag match for the main event.
How will they coexist, Ollie?
What did you make of the reasoning for the Usos to be on this episode?
Do you know what? I didn't mind it. I thought it made a sort of sense. Like, the Usos turn up because they're there on the orders of Roman Reigns, because whoever wins the WWE Championship is going to have to face Roman at Survivor Series. So to get ahead of the game, the Usos are getting in the heads of the opponents, plus also doing a little bit of damage to both guys beforehand. So, like, hopefully by the time Survivor Series rolls around, there is some sort of long form wear and tear going on with Big E or Drew. And also you've got Drew coming to SmackDown and probably immediately going to go after the Universal title anyway. So you do want to get out ahead of that. That all made perfect sense to me. And that was good. And the Usos, I think the Usos are great promos. I really like their style of sort of passing backwards and forwards between the two of them. They flow really well between each other. And I thought Big E and Drew here were really good. Drew tried his best, damn it, to hype us for Crown Jewel, and then Big E came out and said some weird stuff about his nipples, which I like. I think Drew was the perfect sort of straight man for that, and just being talking about your nipples weirdly. They have a good kind of anti-chemistry where Drew's seriousness but willingness to kind of laugh along with a joke really complements Big E's kind of specific type promo type, shall we say.
I agreed that I liked the Usos stuff with Roman, why they were sent there. I don't think it made sense, but I thought it made Roman feel really, really like this big, super evil boss level character. Particularly later on, there's a backstage bit when Drew and Big E are talking amongst themselves, being like, oh, the fact that Roman has sent the Usos over here shows that he's scared of us. And even though, that one line made me elevate Roman Reigns in my head so much. Like, he's got this mob boss level of power that the champion on the other brand is like, oh, I think we might have, he's scared of us. Yeah, I thought that worked really well. The first match, though, so the Usos then had a mini brawl with Drew and Big E. Is that right?
Yeah. So Drew and Big E had a moment where they sort of said, we're going to have this match. They sort of they suggested they wanted the match later on. The Usos put the challenge forward for the match. And then Drew and Big E had a sort of moment where they were like looking at each other, trying to decide whether or not they team. And there was just that little bit of friction. And the Usos capitalized to kick them both in the head. And that left them laying in the ring to go into the next bit, which was Kofi and Woods backstage being asked about what they were going to do if they got to the semi-final. They ran away before answering the question, which led into Woods versus Ricochet in the first round of the King of the Ring.
Didn't you think if the New Day were there, they should have maybe?
Yeah, because they were literally waiting back. They were literally waiting behind the curtain.
They must.
So the
have
Usos would have had to gone past them. No,
they just beat up their boy.
Not important. They were too busy thinking about the King of the Ring.
So the New Day have been drafted to SmackDown, but just for 2 weeks, everyone's sort of a bit of a floater. The people who have been drafted, but so we've got 2 more weeks of 3-man full strength New Day. They're literally right next to each other, and they do not cross the streams.
No.
But yeah, we got the first round King of the Ring match for Raw, which was Xavier Woods taking on Ricochet. Really good match. Like we've said, it went 3 minutes longer than all the women's matches combined. Really, really good stuff. Ricochet is amazing, even though he's been buried so much over the years. It's incredible how much he gets me back into his matches, even though I do not care about him at this state. But yeah, Woods won with the up, down, down elbow.
So Ricochet, I feel like Ricochet is where Neville was, like pre-Cruiserweight Championship. Like, he's in that exact bit where it's like they really like to feature him because he does stuff that pops the crowd, but they don't want to do anything with him, and it's going to take a full refresh. Like, and there was that glimmer of hope here where he said, like, he had his little promos. He's coming out to the ring and he says, like, I'm going to go to SmackDown. I'm going to win this title. I'm going to get a new name. I'm going to turn up on SmackDown with a new attitude as King Ricochet. I think he should just do that anyway. And I hope they do I hope SmackDown is actually like turning over a new leaf for Ricochet's character, because he is so good and they are just wasting him here. Like, cool, yeah, come out, do a flip over the turnbuckle. It's like Ricochet could be in really huge main event matches doing these crazy stunts and he, when he's in bigger matches, as we saw in NXT, he just escalates the level of stunt he does. Like the stuff that he did in this match against Woods, which no one else can do in WWE as far as I know, is just like this is like his 5 moves of doom. And one of his 5 moves of doom is just, I do a flip from the middle of the ring over the turnbuckle. It's like, what else can this man do? Do more with him, Jesus. But yeah, it was a good match. I think Woods is proving himself even more that, he really can carry a singles match and looks really good in it. I just think it's a shame that they identified that the Woods Kofi thing would be an interesting semi-final to do, and they didn't do it.
We'll come on to that very shortly. But we go backstage. Riddle is doing some comedy with Randy Orton. He's challenged Omos for tonight. Orton's got a plan, right? No, he doesn't. But Riddle thinks he's just playing him. Pays off later. Mustafa Ali and Mansoor, one of the better acts to come together this year, take on the newly reunited Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. And they do 4 moves, maybe? Michinoku driver from Alexander pins Ali, and then Ali shoves Mansoor down to the ground in frustration. Later on, they fully break up when Ali beats up Mansoor.
Another match. Michinoku driver's not Cedric's finisher, is it?
No, it's usually
the lung
just
blower.
A setup move, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, he does the light. So yeah, once again, who cares? Split these guys up because we need Mansoor to have a match of Crown Jewel. So we're gonna have to create some artificial friction here so that he can have a win.
But couldn't they just do a tag match at Crown Jewel?
No, Ollie. No. Mansoor needs a victory all of his own, and they haven't invented anything big enough for him to do this year. So it's just going to be him versus Ali. Yeah, I don't know, man. Mason T-Bar are getting split up though, aren't they? Because they've been drafted separately. So
well,
this is. I don't know why the wrestling is on the wrestling show is treated like a sort of. I don't know. It's like I said last week. It's treated like the scone in a cream tea. It's just the vessel for story, but it's not delicious or interesting. WWE just goes, okay, here's 2 minutes of stuff that will hopefully do something else at some point, and then we might do some more wrestling, but probably not. Who really cares about wrestling? Because we do stories, bad stories.
Well, speaking of bad stories, then we got Baszler versus Brooke, which we've already talked about. Then we got Riddle versus Omos, and Riddle's trying to stall Omos. He's cutting a promo, thinking that Randy's going to hit an RKO from out of nowhere. AJ Styles, I thought, was really funny here because he just grabs the mic. And, like increasingly irate heel AJ Styles, where he's trying to point out some injustice. He's like, he's stalling. Can't you see he's stalling? That made me laugh. But no, I thought this was building to some form of Randy does help Riddle.
Yeah.
But that did not happen. Riddle just got, squashed is a strong word, but that's exactly what happened. So AJ sort of directed the beatdown of Riddle, told Omos to hit one of those roundhouse kicks. I'm like, when's that been a thing that Omos does?
Hit one of your wicked sweet roundhouse kicks.
It turns out that isn't one of the things Omos did because he just hit a kick, but kind of with a spin. And AJ, to stall for more time, is like, let's see a slow motion replay of that. So we got to see another replay of it, definitely not being a roundhouse kick.
Roundhouse.
And I was like, the reason this is being drawn out so long is because Randy RKO's AJ on the outside, right? And Omos can still get his win, whatever. But no, they just pinned Riddle.
Mm-hmm. And then AJ gets in the ring to go, oh no, we're not done yet. I'm going to hit the Styles Clash. Then Randy's music hits. He sends Omos outside the ring to guard for Randy. And then it's never quite explained how Randy... They did that thing where like there's a close-up of AJ and all the crowd going, whoa! And Randy's in the ring, hits the RKO, rolls out. Omos turns around and is like, Bo? Where did he come from? Which we all don't know. Like, it was made over like it was a really clever plan. Again, it's made out like it's a really smart plan of Randy's that doesn't quite... If you don't see the plan, is it that smart? Like, if he just appears in the ring because Omos is looking the wrong way, like, there's been better versions of this where Randy's dressed as like ring crew or whatever it is. Like, that's kind of fun. Like, that's fun. And I thought this section was actually fun and goofy and like in the right way. But yeah, I would have liked to see Randy. There be some sort of, there is actually a plan here, but this was neither a plan nor a save.
Yeah,
he didn't help Riddle.
Riddle just got beaten.
Riddle just got beaten up. So Randy's not helping Riddle. And Randy then just appears to RKO AJ because that's just a thing people like to see. Yeah. It could have been the thing you said where he comes down and there is a plan and he does help Riddle at the last moment and then Riddle gets a win. And then you
not over Omos. I wasn't saying that. You've got to keep Omos.
Yeah, okay.
But DQ it.
Yeah. So just something where it looks like Randy's actually, there was a plan all along, and then Randy's the genius and Riddle's the idiot. Yeah.
So a bit weird, but it was one of the better things on the show, I'd say, because RK Bro was so over. AJ Styles very funny. Drew and Biggie...
just before we go on to that, there was a bit before this because they had a promo from every woman in the tag match later. And Charlotte's one was probably the only one of like major interest, I think, because Charlotte did the usual. She slagged everyone off. She said none of them were on her level. Doesn't matter. They're all just following in her wake. But then she said she wants to win the championship from Becky. or whoever walks out of Crown Jewel as the champion, she wants to win that championship too. And she wants to be the double champ / meld the titles together to be the undeniable champion. Is this something on WWE's mind with the women's division? Because they clearly think they've only got 4 women of note now, especially with Bayley out of action. Bianca Belair has moved into that. She's mounted the horse that has been left behind by the injured Bayley. So do you think the WWE want to just be like, well, why don't we just have one women's champion who floats between the brands? Because at least then you don't just have what their big problem last year was that they only had 2 feuds per brand, essentially. So maybe doing some sort of undisputed women's champion could be the best thing that they could do.
Well, it's like 5 years since the brand split now. So that's long overdue for it to fall apart. And that could be the thing that starts to split it up. Although there's always the problems with Fox and the USA Network. But maybe, it could, but at the same time, it could just have been a line. Who knows?
I think it was a good line. It's a good line. Yeah, it's like that's an intrigue and something like interesting. And it's kind of weird to me that Raw and SmackDown have women's championships, but then the men's championships actually just have names. Like they're not just called the Raw and the SmackDown this and that. So I just think it would be interesting to have just one women's champion who floats between the brands.
Or you could call it another name, the Divas Championship.
That's not taken currently.
And then bring back the Divas Championship. Beautiful belt design. That'll help it get over.
Hey, Eva Marie's around.
Yes.
she needs something to do.
Drew and Big E are backstage. This is when they did the Romans scared of them bit. And they agreed to cooperate and quite cutely did the Mega Powers handshake. Bobby Lashley came out to cut a promo. Unfortunately, he is a good deliverer of lines when he has someone else to do the rest of the WWE promo for him, like MVP. That's why the act works so well. But here, Lashley was unfortunately put in a position where he has to go out there, speak for 5 minutes in the WWE script style. And I sort of lost consciousness. I'm not going to lie. So I couldn't tell you much what he said. I think he just said, I'm going to beat Goldberg.
He essentially said that Goldberg came out here and used the opportunity to have a No Rolls Barred match to say the weird things that Goldberg said about suddenly being... I don't know why all the old men in wrestling are suddenly like, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to pull a gun, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to choke you, I'm going to leave you dead. It's
the good old days.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the good old days. They're bringing it back.
Undertaker's going, yes! Yeah, but that's it. It's like that's what he sort of refreshed that in our minds and then said that Goldberg is a dog that needs to be put down. And he says he was going to end Goldberg's career at Crown Jewel. And then there is a good line in this that is when he said, "You can't hurt the Almighty. You can't do this to the Almighty. You can't kill the Almighty." Great line. But yeah, like you said, I think Lashley got lost in the promo, especially in the WWE start. Very slow. Hundreds of what chants all over this. Like, yeah, I don't know why WWE plays into it. They know who's going to get what chanted for sure, surely, like by now. Yeah. Especially with the delivery and the cadence and stuff like that. If you leave space for it, people will fill it with that sound, which I hate.
The worrying thing about Goldberg is that he is a babyface, and usually when babyfaces promise something and they have Terry the cat's here.
Sorry, Terry the cat was knocking around. He's been... Say hi, Catador.
Hi, Catador. Hola.
He's purring.
Right, usually, mate? if a wronged babyface, his son was beaten up, and then you promise to beat the person or win the title off the person, you do it. But what Goldberg's doing here is promising he's going to murder the other person.
It's almost an overreaction, considering that Sundberg attacked Lashley.
Yes,
Sundberg jumped on Lashley and then got a full Nelson for his troubles. So
we'll see what happens.
I love Goldberg. Like we talked about it last week. And what do you make of the line where Goldberg says, "I'm going to leave your lifeless body in the ring, gasping for air"? How can it be lifeless if it's breathing, Goldberg?
Yes. I don't think he thought that out.
I'm not a big fancy scientist, but...
After that, we got Austin Theory having a match against Jeff Hardy after their interaction the previous week. 24/7 jobbers ran into the ring, bit of a distraction there. Hardy almost won with a Swanton Bomb, but Theory got out the way, hooked the tights for the win. Very quick, but at least Theory won?
We're just going to see this again next week on Raw before Hardy goes, and Hardy's going to get the victory. I wish that this was one not interrupted by the 24/7 title, and I wish this was just a proper clean victory for Theory. I think that you've already made out there is no story here of breaking down Jeff Hardy so that he can go to SmackDown and become Willow like he's teased. Oh joy! It seems like you want to build up Theory with these, with actual just wins over these older guys, and I just think a roll up doesn't really achieve that in the way you want to. I think Theory looks good enough to use even if you still do the 24/7 title shenanigans, to at least use the distraction to hit his finisher and get the pin, rather than it being that distraction that causes Theory to lose momentum, giving Jeff Hardy the chance to fight back when Theory was winning, and then Theory has to do a roll up that kind of has confused the roles. That the distraction should have given Theory the chance to be on top, not the other way around.
It's massively overbooked. Yeah. After that, we got the next Raw first round King of the Ring match, Kofi Kingston versus Jinder Mahal, where the stage was set for a very rare New Day versus New Day match in the semis. And of course, Jinder Mahal won. Clean. Yeah. Both former champions. Big time match, this.
Yes. Huge stakes, huge match. And again, like I said earlier, WWE identified the point of this story that was really good. And then they were like, no, Jinder Mahal. Which leads me to believe that Jinder Mahal will be beating Xavier Woods in the semi-finals to advance to the finals of Crown Jewel and win King of the Ring, because he will then become the proper King Maharaja, the double king, the
Maharaja of the Ring. Yeah. It writes itself. And what better time to do it than when you've drafted him away from the coolest guy in his act, Veer?
I think this is the thing, is as much as I want Xavier Woods to be the King of the Ring, it doesn't work if he's just going to be tagging with Kofi, because it's not going to be Kofi Kingston and King Xavier, is it? And the King of the Ring winner Xavier Woods. It needs to be part of a singles run for Xavier Woods. So Jinder does make more sense, but I think you could have shuffled the brackets to at least have Xavier Woods in the final, because you've got to know that they must know that exists on social media, that push for Xavier Woods to be King of the Ring. You want him to get to the final, and you want him to be beaten by whoever is your eventual winner. And I think the best way to do it would have been in the semi-finals to have Kofi versus Woods, have a handshake at the end of the match. Kofi wishes Woods well on his way to the final. That's a really nice, simple wrestling moment that, it doesn't even take long to do on telly, because everyone understands the stakes and what it means. And it's literally at the end of the match is a handshake, and everyone's happy to be like, oh, that was really nice. I enjoyed them doing that thing. Now Woods goes on to the final. But instead, Jinder Mahal.
Yeah.
God bless you, WWE.
Yeah. Well, let's just prepare ourselves for a Jinder win, because I've been down this Woods road before, and I think they're playing with us again.
Jinder Mahal.
The next match was, arguably the biggest match on the show. I thought this was a huge contest to make. They announced it at the top. Bianca Belair tagging with Sasha Banks versus Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. So the four biggest active stars, female stars in your company right now. How will they coexist? The answer is not at all. So they immediately started brawling, which made sense because, like you said, all those promos leading up to it, their individual promos, they were just hating on their partners, their opponents, everything. So they immediately start brawling. Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce come out and they had this really of all the things that, of all the steps backwards that WWE took for women's wrestling on this episode of Raw, weirdly, this was the one that irked me the most. Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce come out and go, you have the chance to show the world what you 4 women can do, and you behave like this. I'm like, what are you talking about? Every single one of the people in this ring has main evented a WrestleMania. They've already shown what they can do. When WWE behaves like the women still have to prove themselves to the world and stuff, I think that's the wrong mentality to have.
In a complete non-main event as well. All 4 of you had the perfect opportunity somewhere in the second hour of Raw to do something, and you're throwing it in our faces.
How dare you behave like this? Like, they would never say that to if this was 2 men's like teams of single stars. Never say that. Anyway, they restart it as a tag match. Everyone's like doing the hard tags or the blind tags, and of course it breaks down. The referee weirdly DQs or calls off the match when Bianca attacks her own partner, which isn't consistent with anything else they've ever done. But yeah, I thought a lot of the tension for this brawl was undone because they did the brawl first. However, if they built up the brawl with the tension, that could have been a much better moment. But they did it the other way round. You can do it the other way round, but I think it left a lot of the potential on the table.
I think also because it's a segment that doesn't have a purpose beyond to be a brawl. Like, there were no stakes in this match. This was just all of these people have a match at some point that's more important than this. So now they will have a match because they have that other match. But this match doesn't denote anything about the other match that they're going to do. It doesn't mean anything for anyone. So of course they're just going to brawl, which is fine in and of itself, but it feels more important if it's going to be for something. Like, you can see before the match even begins, you kind of sense that this is irrelevant, and so it's just going to devolve into a brawl. And then of course the match gets thrown out, and it was fun. Like, it was fun. I enjoyed all the hard tagging and all that kind of, like, I really enjoyed Bianca and Sasha like at the beginning when they couldn't decide who was going to be in, and Becky was just like goading them into it, and then it ends with Bianca like Sasha dragging Bianca back by the hair and just dumping her in the corner. And all of that stuff was really fun, like all the kind of setups where, you know, Sasha was on the top rope, going to dive to the outside, and Bianca's like, no, I'll help you. Off you go. Threw her off and stuff like that. There was like a sort of ripple of, there's quite an interesting match evolving out of this. But yeah, there should have been some reason for them to be tagging together beyond just, hey, that's fun. You've all got a match next week, so whatever. Like, if this was for some sort of advantage in a match or to choose a stipulation or something like that, sometimes these things need a bit of stakes to me, and I would like to see them happening for a reason that isn't just how will they coexist, because that doesn't make any sense.
Cute. That's cute. Like, I forget you don't watch Raw every week, you know, and have to review it. I
would say this every week, Ollie. If this
asking for stakes,
I would continue to stay. Why are there no stakes? Why does when the wrestling happens? Is it for nothing? And why, when there are stakes, like the King of the Ring tournament or the Queen's Crown tournament, God forbid, are we spending a minute on it?
Yeah, can't please some people. There was a brawl. Lynch stood tall. That was pretty much how the segment ended. I agree with everything you said. I'll just put over that despite all that and the bad booking, and like there's not been a single clean finish for like 3 months in the SmackDown Women's title picture, God, the characters are good and they're over. So well done there. We got an Usos promo. We got Doudrop versus Natalya that we've already talked about. John Morrison was meditating backstage, and Rhea Ripley and Nikki Cross walked past, and yeah,
he said some
apparently
stuff
it was
about
Rhea Ripley's birthday.
Was it? And so she wasn't having it. No, well, there's no time for more women. But yeah, so instead she gets to go like, do you know what he's talking about? No.
Yeah. You do not want to wrestle on your birthday or hometown because you're going to get beaten. So she probably got off lightly there. Mansoor and Ali broke up backstage, which we've covered, and the main event. How will they coexist again? Drew and Big E versus the Usos. They actually coexisted very well at the start. They did the New Day's moveset, but then they pretty quickly combusted. They started beating each other up near the end, but that wasn't a DQ or calling off the match like in the previous tag. Instead, the referee counted them out. Fun match though. Usos are so good.
Oh man, like this is I don't necessarily like. I wish that more of Raw was allowed to have wrestling in it because when it actually happens, it's good. Like these four guys are really good together and they work really well. Like I think the women proved in the tag match that they all are amazing as well. But because the tag match was so brawl heavy, it didn't really get a chance to kind of shine as a wrestling match. This was really good. But yeah, I don't know why Raw isn't just 6 really good wrestling matches with slightly shorter segments of story. If Bobby Lashley came out and spoke for 2.5 minutes rather than 5 minutes, Ollie, you claw some time back. If Drew McIntyre came out at the beginning of Raw to welcome everyone to Raw and it didn't take 20 minutes to get to the point where he's going to have a match with Big E and the Usos, there might be a bit more time for some other wrestling. I don't know. Something about the pacing of Raw is mental. But yeah, this was a really good, fun little match with a insane, weird ending where once again nothing is resolved.
Look at this guy wanting wrestling on a sports entertainment show. Did you see the bump on Drew McIntyre's head?
I did, yeah.
Bloody hell! So he was cut open by him and Big E's brawl, or maybe when the Usos pulled him off the apron. And I thought, okay, bit of color, cool, probably not intentional. But then when he was walking up the ramp, because he laid out Big E, hit the Claymore at stand tall, that already there was this bump the size of, I guess, a thumb coming off of his forehead. So man, that is gonna suck.
I thought this was quite a cool, like there was a good little callback to last week where Big E hits the tag as Drew's about to hit the Claymore in the same way that last week Drew tagged himself in as Big E was about to hit the big ending. Last week it was a bit weird because Big E just put them down rather than continue with the move that he was doing. He just put them down and then let them get Claymored. Here, like Drew never got to hit the Claymore because Big E was always sort of stepping in front of him. So that kind of makes a bit more sense. But then he drags him off the big ending cover to start the brawl essentially. I liked that. I thought that was a good little moment. I think Drew and Big E of the matches at Crown Jewel, they've had sort of the best build so far because their promos together have been good. This stuff at least felt kind of impassioned and to a degree worked. And I think the Usos were good foils for that as like here to stir the pot because it's all about the big mafia boss watching from on high being like, I'm going to have to be interested in this in a few weeks' time, so I'm going to get out ahead of it and start causing trouble.
Yeah, multiple plates spin there. So yeah, good main event, good action, but didn't really make sense. How many things can we say that about? Overall, I gave this a 3 out of 5. What would you rate it? 2.
That's me being generous. 2.
Well, I didn't do the poll, so we don't know what your.
I think we need to change.
Folks.
Look, we need to change the Raw scoring system because we're doing a 5-star system for everything, right? And I don't think it should be 5 stars for Raw. I think it should be rated out of Raw, so it should be a 3 out of Raw. That's a 3 because we might give an AEW show a 3 when it's like not amazing, but it's a very good wrestling show still. We'll do the same for NXT, but I think with Raw, we've got to shift the scale back to its own scale because a 3 of a Raw is still not a good TV show.
A 3 AEW Dynamite would be a 5-star WWE Raw, easy. I've always tried to be very clear that the ratings are relative. But yeah, Matt, I quite like the idea of 3 out of Raw.
It's a 3
out of Raw.
This was a 2 of Raw.
We have Pledgehammer Shoutouts, guys. Thank you, everybody, for pledging to our lovely Patreon. If you go over there, you can get a bunch of exclusive things like podcasts. Me and Luke will be doing a review of Bound. Is it Bound for Glory 2007? I think that's it. With the infamous Reverse Battle Royal match. One of the most ridiculous ideas ever to have been done by Vince Russo. And that's saying something. Your own shout-outs on the WrestleTalk News and in this very podcast for $25 and above backers. So thank you, Meticulous Michaela Traub.
Yeah, you're going to have to read the next one because I can't see him. Yeah.
The Jonas Brothers, Jonas Hakonen. Yeah. General Jimmy G. NJ Hornsberg. Victor Henry Napoleon Dynamite. $100 man CD Horver. The Kessel Run DX Solo. Mad Mac, the Meat Father.
People asked the Jeff
Ryan
last week.
Disco Stewart. Superkick Nick Mazesco. Double L Liam Leonard. And the Vindicator Finn Brennan.
Just one big tag.
Nicely done. Excellent clapping. Top work.
Thank you.
Right. Your Ultrachats, folks. Let's finish these off. Riot DR. Ladies, stop fighting so we can see if you can coexist. So glad we only gave Queen's Crown round 1 5 minutes to fit in this segment. This company. Jack Nichols, Raw. Ew. So awful. Has Sammy ever performed in Saudi? He strikes me as the type to oppose it. With that in mind, Jinder versus Finder is a SNME level match on pay-per-view. SNME?
I'll look it up.
This is some new abbreviation.
Up, then Saturday Night Main
Keep
Event.
well, lads. Your hair is still... What does it mean?
Saturday Night Main Event.
Oh, right. So Jack Nichols has said this before. Your hair is still peng, Ollie.
Looking peng.
When was the last time you heard peng?
Pretty recently. I said it. I like peng. Peng's a great word.
But yeah, Jack, Sami Zayn does not go to perform in Saudi Arabia. I don't think he would anyway. Kevin Owens doesn't go either. Neither Daniel Bryan after the first one, I think. And Sami instead uses the opportunity to raise money for a Syrian refugee charity fund. Will Campbell, hi guys, glad Woods won. One step closer to King Woods. And that Drew Beige promo was oddly endearing. I'm just now terrified that Vince, in his infinite wisdom, will book Jinder to win because Vince is super hard for Jinder for a certain chanted reason. I think it's going to happen. Just prepare for it happening, and then you won't be sad or angry. The Raven Effect. WWE say they want to be the new Marvel. Well, Marvel tries something, then 3 weeks later bring back the old guys. Bucky as Cap, Steve comes back, Falcon as Cap, Steve comes back. I think WWE are trying too hard to be the comics and not the movies.
I think WWE aren't trying hard is the issue. I think they're not trying at all.
I think the difference with the comics is that the comics have literally been around with the same cast of characters for 80 years. And that's why they've done every storyline imaginable. Whereas WWE, they do have a turnover of characters and performers, so they shouldn't have to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think also wrestlers aren't fighting over who gets to be Roman Reigns. They're fighting over the Universal title, which is different. It's not a case of if Seth Rollins wins this match, he becomes Roman Reigns. They should do it.
That's fun.
They should do it. I'm going to take
Who can be the big dog?
Yeah.
And finally, for now, Mr. Geologie. Hi, guys. I think I know who's winning both tournaments, as after Crown Jewel, we have only one superstar for each brand that's in for Raw. That's Finn for Raw and Shayna for SmackDown, while the other 3 for semi-finalists are 3 Raw for the women and 3 SmackDown for the men. So when all the draft dust is settled, you mean?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaning towards the idea that it's going to be one heel and one face winners. So probably I think Shayna's the right choice on the women's side of things, and I think King Finn is already a prince. He's already the Demon King. There's something you can do there with that. That's fine, but they'll just stop using it immediately, won't they? It's not going to be. Unfortunately, it's not going to be Woods. So.
Yeah, let's hope it's Woods, but let's also recognize it's not Woods.
I think it's best to say it's not Woods, because then we can be pleasantly surprised if it is Woods, rather than being like, it is Woods, and then we'll be massively disappointed if it's not.
Well,
set your
please do
lower, and then you get through it.
That is the WWE way. Oh, we've got a member. Adam Blamplate has renewed their membership. Thank you very much. And also, Geologie, folks, go over to the link in the video description below. Take your free test to find out what the best skincare regimen is for you. And then you can get one of these excellent packs delivered to you, which I use twice a day to make your skin as lovely and as supple as, well, me. And you're going to need it because you're going to be indoors a lot. There's going to be heating on. It's going to dry your skin out, folks. So use it. Use the code. Use the link down below. And subscribe to this channel. But for now, I've been Ollie Davis.
I've been Laurie. Am I having to say that?
Yeah.
Laurie has been here. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Jam that jam.